South Carolina Senator Tim Scott was standing with Trump as he declared victory in New Hampshire on Tuesday. And Senator Scott joins us now. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to start with the breaking news on Friday, and that was that your candidate, former President Trump, was ordered by a jury to pay $83 million for defaming writer E. Jean Carroll. He was also found before, as you know, liable for sexual abuse. Does that give you any pause in your support?
You know, myself and all the voters that support Donald Trump supports a return to normalcy as it relates to what affects their kitchen table. The average person in our country, Martha, they're not talking about lawsuits. As a matter of fact, what I have seen, however, is that the perception that the legal system is being weaponized against Donald Trump is actually increasing his poll numbers.
I understand that, but they were jury trials. They were jury trials. They started when Donald Trump was president. That gives you no pause whatsoever.
I don't have the Democrats don't pause when they think about Hunter Biden and the challenges that he brings to his father. The one thing I think the electorate is thinking about most often is how in the world will the next president impact my quality of life? How will America regain its standing in this world? They were better off under Trump, and they're looking for 4 more years of low inflation, low crime, low unemployment, and high enthusiasm for our country. We haven't had that in the last 4 years.
I spoke to a lot of voters this week, and I do want to go back to Tuesday night and even before that. Donald Trump had an incredibly strong victory in Iowa. Of course, New Hampshire, a double-digit lead. He is clearly the front runner, but those are just 2 states.
Yes.
And you just heard about Nikki Haley's fundraising ability.
Yes.
Why should she drop out?
Well, there's 2 things for sure. Number one, Donald Trump gets more earned media, probably $1 billion already, because of who he is and what's going on around him. Number one. Number two, I think he was outspent in Iowa and New Hampshire by his opponents. One thing we know for sure, as this race turns to South Carolina, that the enthusiasm in South Carolina for the former president has never been higher. I've seen polls that suggest he's up by 20 points. I'd make a prediction that he wins by more than 20% in South Carolina. But yes, there's only been two competitions so far. Here's what I'll tell you. My theory is a simple one. When I dropped out of the race in November, it was because the writing was clear on the wall then. It is now more clear that what Republicans, conservatives, and a lot of independents want today is 4 more years of Donald Trump.
Trump showed weakness among independents, however, a group that he would need if he tries to win in November. Nikki Haley won 60% of self-identified independents in the state. How does he win over those voters?
Well, the numbers coming out of New Hampshire were really impressive. I'm not an analyst. You're an expert at this, Martha. But I will say one of the things I found to be surprising and positive is that amongst millennial voters, President Trump won 58 to 38. There was a 20-point gap among young voters. Among women voters in New Hampshire, where liberals, Democrats, and independents voted in the Republican primary, President Trump beat Nikki Haley among women. So when I think about the fact that African Americans at the highest level in my lifetime is looking at a Republican over 20%, Hispanics over 40%. This is a good time to be running as a Republican.
Okay, I want to stop you there because,
Sure.
Again, the independent voters, and that is clearly something Donald Trump needs to get if he expects to win in November, if he gets the nomination. I want you to listen to a bit of Donald Trump's speech after his win in New Hampshire.
You can't let people get away with, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won.
He has also called Haley a bird brain, questioned whether she has the right to run for president because her immigrant parents were not yet legal citizens. How does that attract independents? How does that attract people who voted for Nikki Haley?
Well, here's what I can tell you. Both candidates and all candidates should focus on the issues without any question. When Nikki Haley talks about the president's age and a competency test, I think that turns off senior voters. It's one of the reasons why.
But go back to Donald Trump. I want to talk about Donald Trump.
It's one of the reasons why senior voters support Donald Trump. Here's what we should ask ourselves, and I'm asking myself.
Please answer the question about him calling her a bird brain. You worked with her. She appointed you a senator. Do you like that kind of language?
His language is far more provocative than mine, but this is not about simply my opinion of one candidate. I also think that talking about someone's age is inappropriate when especially they are competent, qualified, and ready to go to be the next president of the United States. And by the way, Martha, Republican primary contests are Republican primary contests. 70+% of Republicans in New Hampshire supported the president. This race is over from a primary perspective.
Okay.
We should turn our attention to Joe Biden. The economy is devastating for poor Americans.
I want to hit one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
You stated flatly after the 2020 election that Joe Biden is the legitimate president, saying, of course he is. Donald Trump denies that. 31% of Republicans think Biden's election was legitimate. Does that concern you for the Republican Party, that they're denying something you said was true?
Listen, I would love to spend, if we have an hour to chat together, I'd spend lots of time breaking down who believes what. Here's what's more important.
I just broke it down, who believes what. We know what you believe, we know what Donald Trump believes.
It's your show, and you get to decide what we talk about. I will simply say that the American people are more concerned about tomorrow than they are yesterday. And because of that, the race that we're seeing coming to light today is Joe Biden's 4 years versus Donald Trump's 4 years. We don't need to litigate what happened in 2020. What we should be focusing on, what I'm focusing on, is what's going to happen in 2024 and beyond for one reason. As a kid who grew up in poverty, in a single-parent household, the one thing I wondered in the poorest communities in North Charleston was, what is the American dream real for a kid like me? In today's America, the devastation of crime and chaos is eating the lunch of too many poor people living in tough neighborhoods. I want to make sure that we have law and order and opportunity, abundant opportunity for all Americans.
Okay, thanks for joining us this morning, Senator.
Thank you, Martha.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.